My greetings to everyone and welcome to the special symbolic expression series, that is the inclusive series, with our mentor Manisha. So let's begin with a very important topic on the innovative assessment methods used in India and abroad, and with some key university examples. As we have already discussed, the innovative assessment methods are being employed not only across the globe, but now after the advent of NEP 2020, it has been practiced in India. Like we have discussed about what is a project-based assessment. In this, the students are given a project and they are assessed on the real-time basis. We also assess them on the basis of portfolio assessment, in which the students have to compile their entire work in their entire semester or annual learning journey, on the basis of which they are marked. Definitely, there is a very important concept of performance-based assessment, in which the students perform their tasks and activities demonstrating their KSA, that is knowledge, skills and attitude. Then there is a peer assessment, in which the work done by one student is evaluated by another student. There is another innovative method of assessment, that is they do a self-assessment, that is on the basis of particular marks they assess that where do they stand on the basis of their reflective learning experiences, what they have during the semester or during the year. There is an important concept of collaborative assessment, in which the students work in a group and the assessment is done on the basis of the contribution of each individual who are a part of that group, and there is a competitive spirit which is present and also makes the students very engaging in the class. There is a concept of digital and online assessment, which has been on upsurge, the use of this after the COVID-19. There is an explanation which is relevant to this and makes a special mention here, that assessment conducted during the digital tools and the platforms, we use the learning management system, that is the LMS. There is a gamified assessment, in which there is an introduction of the game element, which also makes the students very happy. There is a quiz app, and the students, once they score, immediately they know about where do they stand, and if they stand apart from their other classmates, they are given the digital badges, which motivates them to a substantial extent. There is a simulation based assessment specifically in the pilot industry, in terms of nursing, in terms of the virtual stock market. These are the areas where the simulation based assessment is done, and especially in the business cases also, like in MBA. There is a concept of reflective journals, in which the students maintain their journals, where they reflect on whatever they have learned on the basis of their learning experiences. Like this is used in psychology, this is used in other important aspects, in which the students document their experiences and insights from the teaching practices. There is a concept of concept mapping, which is quite prevalent, famous, popular across the globe. What do you mean by concept mapping? In this, the students create a visual representation of their understanding of a particular topic, like we do in sociology field, we do in the medical field, in which the students are assessed on the basis of their particular learning experiences. On the similar pretext, we have the competency based assessment, in which the students are assessed on the basis of the mastery of their specific and the key skills, or we call it as the competencies. Like let us take an example of the engineering students. They are judged, they are assessed on the basis of competency in coding by developing a software application. In the nursing, the students show their proficiency in the patient care and the techniques, and through the practical examination. In case of a field work assessment, as the name suggests, The students are assessed on the basis of how do they conduct the field work, what biodiversity they have seen in case of environmental student. In case of anthropology, how does the student perform as far as their ethnographic research is concerned. Now we are going to learn a very important assessment innovative aspects called as service learning assessment. Now the students are evaluated on their involvement and the reflection in the community service activities. Like for example, a social work student, how do they participate in the community health initiatives and reflect on their experiences? Let's take an example in the field of education. The education student volunteer in the local schools and write their reflective essays on their teaching experiences. Next we have is an oral examination. The students are assessed through the oral presentations or the interviews. Like for example, in the law student, they present their arguments in a moot court scenario. Like a language students are evaluated on their controversial skills in a foreign language through the oral exam. Let's do a most popular yet innovative technique of assessment, and we call it as a capstone project. Yes, we are talking about a complete project which is at the end of the year or at the end of a semester or at the end of a trimester on the basis of their complete learning during that period. So, students complete their comprehensive projects that integrate their learning across the courses. For example, the business students, they develop a complete business plan for a startup as their capstone project. Another student from a computer science, they create a software solution addressing a real world problem. Now we come to another important method called case-based assessment. Now, the students analyze and solve a real or a hypothetical cases. Like we give and a most important assessment technique in the Masters of Business Administration, that is the MBA students. MBA students analyze a case study of a company strategic management decisions. Another example from the medical students. The medical students, they diagnose and propose a treatment plan for the fictitious patient cases. So, case-based assessment is the most popular assessment in case of MBA and in case of the medical field. Now, coming on to another yet most popular assessment way, that is scenario-based assessment. This is also an innovative way of assessing the students. The students are assessed based on their responses to a hypothetical scenario. For example, emergency management students, they develop the response plans for a simulated natural disaster. That is, in case of a natural disaster, how they are going to manage the emergency, what is going to be their response plan to conquer that natural disaster. So, this is definitely a part of scenario-based assessment. Let's take another example. In case of a public health, the students create an intervention strategy for a hypothetical outbreak. Like for example, if we take an example of COVID-19, what is going to be the intervention strategy? So, this is again a scenario-based assessment. Now, moving on to a e-portfolio. The students compile a digital portfolio showcasing their work and achievement digitally. For example, the graphic design students, they create a e-portfolio of their design projects and the artwork. This is the most popular technique in case of engineering, in case of design-based assessment. Another example, in case of the education, the students compile the lesson plans, teaching videos and the reflections in a digital portfolio. Now, let us move into a new field of assessment called the role-playing simulations. In this, the students take on the role in the simulations to apply the theoretical knowledge in a practical scenario. So, we call it as from theory to practice. Let us take an example from the political science field. In political science, the students simulate a parliamentary debate taking on roles as a different members of parliament. The role-playing simulations. In the business, students engage in a negotiation simulation, the role-playing as a representatives of a different company. Think aloud protocols. This is another important aspect of innovative assessment pedagogies. Now, what happens in this? The students, they verbalize their processes during the problem solving. Like in case of a psychology, the psychology students think aloud while solving a cognitive problem to demonstrate their reasoning. In case of mathematics, the students explain the steps while solving the complex equations during a test. So, this is what we call it as think aloud protocols, which is a new method. Yet another method of innovative assessment is a hackathon. Now, you will remember this word because we always come across what are hackathons. So, students participate in intensive collaborative events to solve the problems or create the projects. Like for example, in IT students, they participate in a 24-hour hackathon to develop the innovative tech solution. In case of an engineering, the students collaborate in a hackathon to design and protocol the new products. Yet another method of innovative assessment is the interactive oral assessment. Now, what happens in this? Let's dwell. The students engage in discussions or debate as a form of assessment. For example, in literature, the students discuss the theme of a novel in an oral assessment format. In case of history, the students debate a historical perspective and are assessed on their argumentation skills. Let's see what are video-based assessment, which is again a very famous innovative assessment technique. In this, the students create the videos to demonstrate their knowledge or the skills. The education, the students produce instructional videos demonstrating the teaching technique. Let's take an example from the media studies. In media studies, the students create the short films or the documentaries as a part of their assessment. So, on the basis of whatever video they create, they are assessed. Yet another field of innovative assessment is learning contrast. The students set the learning goals and are assessed on their achievements. Like for example, in the nursing, students create a learning contrast outlining their goals for the clinical skills development. In the language, the students set their goals for the fluency and are assessed on their progress throughout the semester. The game-based assessment is another important innovative field in which the students are assessed through educational games that test their knowledge and the skills. For example, in the economics, the students use a simulation game to understand the market dynamics and are assessed on their performance. In history, the students play a strategy game set in a historical period and are assessed on their decision making and understanding of the historical events. The next type of innovative assessment is your design thinking projects. In this, the students use design thinking methodologies to create the innovative solutions. Like for example, the architecture students, they use the design thinking to create a sustainable building design. In case of another example of the business studies, the students apply design thinking to develop the user-centric products or the services. The next most important technique, which is very prevalent and most popular and most innovative, is the cultural immersion programs. The students are assessed based on their participation and their reflection in the cultural exchange programs. Like in India, the language students participate in an exchange program with a foreign university and reflect on their cultural experiences. We also call it as cultural immersion programs in case of international relations. The student engage in a cultural immersion trip and write a reflective report on their specific learnings, and they are assessed on the basis of this. Now, in case of the competitions, which is another assessment technique, the students participate in academic and the skill-based competitions as a form of assessment. Like in case of engineering, the students participate in a national robotic competition. In case of business studies, the students participate in international case competition in the real world business problems. We will now discuss another important innovative assessment technique called Socratic Seminars. Now, what is this? The students engage in deep critical discussions on a specific topic or the text. The philosophy students participate in a Socratic seminar discussing the ethical theories, and in case of the literature, the students analyze and discuss a classic novel in a Socratic seminar format. In these Socratic seminars, by incorporating these innovative assessment methods, higher education institutes can provide the diverse, engaging and comprehensive evaluation that better prepares students for the real world challenges and the lifelong learning. Now, let us see some landmark examples from Indian and the global universities who have been employing and using and practicing these innovative assessment techniques, methods and the strategies. We will start from MIT, United States of America. MIT uses a project-based assessment, digital portfolio and the competency-based assessment. The MIT Integrated Learning Initiative, it incorporates the project assessment where the students work on interdisciplinary projects that are assessed both from the technical and the practical competencies of the student. The Stanford University, USA. The Stanford employs the flipped classrooms, gamified assessments and collaborative assessments. Let us take an example of University of Cambridge, United Kingdom. Cambridge uses the oral examination, self-assessment and reflective journals. University of Melbourne, Australia. The university incorporates the case-based assessment, scenario-based assessment and the EPortfolio. Now we are taking the example of NUS, that is National University of Singapore. NUS utilizes the service learning assessments, digital and online assessments and the Capstone projects. The NUS School of Computing has the Capstone project module where the students work in teams to solve a real-world problem for the industry partners, culminating in the presentations and the reports that are assessed both by the faculty and also the industry expert. So, there is an outside element which makes the assessment more good and more real and more better. Now, let us take some examples from the Indian universities. We will take the examples of IIT Mumbai. IIT Mumbai uses the project-based assessment, peer assessment and the gamified assessments. And this particular Department of Computer Science of IIT Mumbai, they take project-based learning where the students develop a software and participate in peer reviews to assess the functionality and the innovation of their projects. University of Delhi, assessment strategies. The University of Delhi employs a portfolio assessment, collaborative assessment and reflective journals. The Department of Education at the University of Delhi uses the reflective journals and the collaborative assessment for its B.Ed program, where the students document their teaching experience and work in groups to develop the educational resources. Let us take an example of Ashoka University. Ashoka University integrates the self-assessment, oral examination and concept mapping. In the liberal arts program, the students engage in self-assessment through a regular reflection and the concept mapping exercises that help them connect the interdisciplinary concepts. The Indian School of Business, that is ISB Hyderabad. ISB uses a simulation-based assessment, competency-based assessment and the case study analysis. Next is your Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham uses the service learning assessment, EPortfolio and the digital assessment. The Live in Lab program at this university, it involves the students in the community-based projects where they develop the solutions to the real-life problems in the rural areas and document their work in the digital portfolio. These universities, they serve as a landmark example of how innovative assessment strategies can be implemented to enhance the student learning and provide a more comprehensive evaluation of the student performance. And by adopting these methods, educational institutions can better prepare students for the real world challenges and foster a deeper understanding of their fields of the study. The last example is from Harvard University, USA. Harvard uses a case study analysis, the flipped classroom and the reflective journals. The Harvard Business School is renowned for its case methods, where the students, they analyze and discuss the real world business cases, enhancing their critical thinking and the decision making skills. And also, when you talk about the University of Helsinki, Finland, the university employs the inquiry-based learning, the portfolio assessment and the peer assessment. The Zurich University of Switzerland, that is ETH Zurich, They assess the students on the basis of competency, on the basis of project and the digital assessment. The University of Sydney incorporates a scenario-based assessment, the service learning and the Capstone project. Last but not the least, the Peking University, China, they use the simulation assessment, collaborative assessment and the concept mapping. So, we have discussed so many universities and the innovative assessments they are undertaking as a part of NEP 2020 and the global scenario also. Like in JNU, it uses the reflective journals, peer assessments and the case-based assessments. So, I hope this session has been useful to you so that they are able to use these methods in your particular business schools and in your classroom teaching, which is going to make the education a good learning experience for the faculty as well as the students. So, happy assessment. Thank you so much.